The invention of grain farming was radically transformative to human life. It allowed tens of thousands of people to settle in relatively small areas and gave rise to the first cities. It has been the most effective way to feed large communities, allowing the creation of bread and beer, and has acted as a mainstay of civilization. While they can be very efficient crops, they do have a downside in that farming grain is very labor-intensive, with many stalks and seeds needing to be collected and separated to make even a single meal. Increasing the speed of harvest meant acquiring more food with less work. So what tools did people use to improve their harvest of their most important crop? One near universal solution that would become representative and foundational of farming as a whole was the sickle, a simple bladed tool with an inward-facing edge that allowed for the harvesting of large clusters of grain at a time. The first sickles were made even prior to organized farming. They were made by cutting a groove into a piece of wood, antler, or bone, and then taking a series of sharp stone blades or microliths, often made from flint, and gluing them into alignment to create a rudimentary blade up the length of the handle. These flakes of stone could be truly razor sharp, cutting stalks with ease. The glue that held them in place was often made from boiled sap, combined with ground charcoal, and if it failed, causing a stone blade to come loose, it could easily be replaced, making it a durable enough tool for continuous use. An alternative design found alongside in many locations would use a single larger stone blade set with glue in the same handle grooves, requiring more effort to make but giving a continuous edge for cutting. Stone sickles would continue to be used into the Bronze Age, in no small part due to the greater accessibility of stone and organic materials compared to expensive bronze. For those farmers who did have access to bronze, metal sickles were created as early as the late 4th millennium BC. These would have the advantage of a continuous smooth blade that could be maintained more easily, eliminating the issues of segmented blades and making for a more durable tool. The designs took several forms, including socketed, tanged, and ridged attachment styles. The blades themselves were hammered out to a very thin cross-section. This would create an extremely sharp, though fragile edge that would consequently require frequent resharpening and maintenance, though it would be easier to maintain and more prone to bend rather than chip as a stone blade might. The other advantage from hammering the blade thin is what's known as the work hardening effect, where the microscopic bends and deformations in the metal from hammering cause it to harden and resist further deforming, making it more durable than if it were simply cast or filed into shape. Iron Age sickles were forged into shape rather than cast, but would maintain a very similar form, a gently curved blade that would attach to a relatively straight wooden handle. This form would continue up into the Middle Ages and beyond. It was used longer in some locations, like Scandinavia or Eastern Europe, or Japan is seen as the kama still used today. In Western Europe, the classic balanced sickle was developed in the Middle Ages, particularly coming to popularity during the Saxon migration period, and has continued in use up to the present. This design allows for the center of mass to stay relatively in line with the handle, along with increased blade length and cutting surface. While sickles are a specialized farming implement for separating plant stalks first and foremost, there is a much rarer part of their history that I thought was also worth including, and that's their use as an opportunistic weapon. Their broad functionality as a farm implement meant they were readily available to people with limited access to purpose-made weapons. For this purpose, the kama is associated with some Japanese martial arts and is famously portrayed as a ninja weapon, while European peasant revolts are very likely to have featured sickles alongside other improvised weapons, such as flails and wood axes, documented in conflicts like the English Peasants' Revolt of 1381 or the German Peasants' War of 1524. The 16th century fencer Paulus Hector Mayer even documented fighting techniques specifically for the sickle, showing a variety of movesets for a dueling environment. Fighting aside, sickles have been a critical harvesting tool for about as long as farming has existed, and while it may be largely replaced in modern farming techniques, they still have their uses among traditional farmers and gardeners, and have been a foundational component of farm life for millennia. By the way, if you do want to try out some sickle fighting techniques, I've designed this training sickle that's reminiscent of early medieval sickles or a kama, available at the link below.